Everybody, welcome back to the Point 3 podcast, Hero Scroll Funko Loop. Thank you for joining us for another video. Before you do, please hit the subscribe button and make sure to follow us on our socials, Instagram, TikTok, all that good jazz. But Black Adam has recently come into the spotlight again. Kevin Hart on his Heart to Heart show on Peacock had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson recently, and they kind of talked about Black Adam. And when Kevin Hart asked him about it, he mentioned that The Rock mentioned that it kind of caught up in a vortex of leadership change. And for me personally, that kind of drove me down the road of thinking, were we as fans, right, too harsh on Black Adam when it came out? Lou, what do you think? I know you've said you've rewatched Black Adam. How do you feel about it? What, 8 months after almost?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I did a rewatch after Flash, just for a comparison. Around the same time I watched Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods, just to see kind of the state of the DCU, because again, at the time with Flash, there was that whole expectation that there was going to be a reboot. And the last time we had another changing of the hierarchy of power, you know, the big draw for Black Adam, and the rumor that was going around is Henry Cavill's coming back as Superman in a post-credit scene. And Henry Cavill came back as Superman in a post-credit scene. And then we get the whole DCU announcement, James Gunn, Peter Safran, and essentially everything that Black Adam tried to do to revitalize the DC EU, crash and burn, honestly. And I think you can look at any extended universe, which really it's only Marvel, as there's so many layers. And we've talked about this in all of our podcasts for the most part when we do a show review, especially specifically the MCU and some DCU stuff. So definitely go check that out. But when you take what fans were hoping for, right? Black Adam was like that big, great hope. You're like, man, you have like the highest paid actor who's saying, this is what we're going to do. We're listening to the fans. We're going to give the fans what they want. Superman versus Black Adam. That's what I've wanted. I said it at the Super Bowl. I've said it on every commercial now. Like, I've been saying it for a long time. This is what we want. Superman, Black Adam. And you're like, wow, he did it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, we're never getting it. I believed you. You lied to me. I feel betrayed. That movie was dirt. You guys didn't do anything. Like, there's just negative. And when I rewatched it again, I didn't see any of that. I was like, this is a rock solid movie. This is a rock solid movie. No pun intended.
I was going to say pun intended.
Go ahead.
No, I'm there with you 100%, because that clip kind of came out in the past week, and I started rewatching Black Adam. I didn't get to finish it all the way. I got probably over half. But as I sat there and I watched it, I really enjoyed it.
No.
Really enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. Is this movie perfect? Absolutely not. There are certain things I would change, and definitely probably the villain. It's probably the most forgettable part of the movie.
Yeah.
The central core kind of about that. And the child, I think, of the movie, like his modern stand-in for his son.
Yeah.
Probably would change that too. However, if you take that away, right, you put that to the side and you look at what you get a pretty good action movie.
Oh, for sure.
With The Rock, who I know people are like, oh, The Rock can't act. That's not true. When The Rock wants to do something, he will. And I don't think he dials in this performance. He does play a cold-hearted killer really good. I mean, the scene where the soldiers are in like his prison and he comes out and he just decimates all of them. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great action scenes when he's like fighting the what's Hawkman and Dr. Fate.
The JSA.
The JSA. You know, when he's finding them, Dr. Fate was awesome. Hawkman was awesome.
Oh yeah, we can touch on that, dude. That's
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So like, the side characters and the main characters are very good. Oh, mainly, and it's just funny to me that, as you said, because of what came out, everybody just, I guess, started blaming him because
Mhm.
of how much ownership he took from this movie.
Yes.
If The Rock didn't take it upon himself to really champion Black Adam like he did, and the same situations that, or the same things that happened,
Mhm.
I don't think people would come out of it hating on him as much.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't think so. I think they hated on him because he championed it. So people, instead of seeing it as like the leadership change and
Yep. Yep.
him giving everybody what essentially he kind of promised he would, that's why I think a lot of people turned on him.
Yeah, and man, even to that point, it's like, you look at DC and you look at Marvel, and they're very large fandoms, especially at this point where like people grew up with these. Those that knew the comics and grew up with the comics are still very much immersed in this. So the generations that have eyes on really any superhero genre movie, they can be large. Now, does DC and did the DCEU fill seats like Marvel does? No. Did they crush the box office like Marvel? No. Or MCU? Um, but I think they're unfairly. I think when it comes to The Rock, you kind of have this like there's that meme where it's like these are all the same movie, and he's kind of in that like gray jungle outfit, and looking his way, and it's like Jumanji, something else, and something else, and something else, but it's like the same look. And in this, I don't think people slowed down and really caught on to a lot of themes that they put in this movie and the effort level that went into this to be a little bit more than just your classic action movie. And I think oh gosh, his name slipped. Hawkman. What's the actor's name? I keep saying Idris Elba, and obviously that's not it. Aldous
No,
Hodge. Aldous Hodge, I think is his name. I don't know if you want to look it up and check it. But he came out and said
Aldous
something really
Hodge,
good.
yeah,
Yeah. In an
yeah,
article, and it's like, what are the themes of this movie? And I did a lot of comparison between the Flash and this because I'll go on the record and say I think the Flash was trash, but people
I
are like, well,
second
what
that.
did? Thank you. That's point 0.3/0.2 certified right now.
Yeah,
Um, but like Black Adam didn't have any themes. When you watch this movie the second time, you get a good idea of evil portrayed in a slightly different way, but fairly similar to kind of classic, superhero genres. Who decides what's good and evil? And I think you mentioned that when it comes to the brand of justice that Dwayne Johnson, Black Adam, Tough Adam brings. And you get that dynamic between Hawkman and Black Adam of like, you don't need to kill him. And he's like, why not? That's not how you interrogate to get answers. And he's like, I got the answer. I did it my way. You do it your way, I'll do it my way. And then you kind of have a blending by the end of that mutual respect. But, who decides what's good and evil? The portrayal of what unhealed grief, pain, and sadness can do to a person. You really saw that. And I think he did a fairly good job or of portraying that, especially with the son. And essentially, a great focus on diversity and then also the theme of oppression. They're not super deep, but they touch on it enough to make you feel that, kind of, hey, what's going on? Like, why would the JSA, led by Waller, go to a foreign country and just say, I can do whatever I want, wherever I want, how I want to do it? Borders don't matter to us, but they matter when you're coming to my turf. But your turf, it can be my turf anytime I want it to be.
yeah.
And I think that they had some good foundations in that. And if they carried that on, world building, it's fantastic. Character building, fantastic. I think they had a really good foundation in this.
They absolutely, and I was going to say the fact that they brought in Waller, the fact that they brought in what is her name from Peace Hardcore,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that they brought her in, and obviously if you didn't Peacemaker, you wouldn't have gotten that reference, but
Mm-hmm.
if you did, and I think most people did, you caught that reference, and it was like, oh no, she's doing other stuff, aside from Peacemaker. So like you said, the world building was great. Then they added the whole JSA and making the DC universe feel more alive with other heroes out there. Because it
Yeah,
really, I
yeah.
think by the end of this, we can all agree we wanted more Doctor Fate and
Oh,
we wanted more Hawkman.
yes.
Like we came out of this movie and we're like, yo, they were great. And the funny thing is, they do this despite the fact that they still made The Rock the strongest character. And here's the thing. I know people are probably going to be in the comment section, and I hear it still that people are like, "Oh, well, there's that contract thing where he's not supposed to lose a fight or whatever." Sure, right, but let's put that aside.
Mm-hmm.
Black Adam is supposed to be one of the strongest in DC Comics, right?
Period.
He's a problem. He's a problem.
Yes, he is.
Why would he lose? You know, why do you want him to lose? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this real quick. Before Black Adam, let's go just comic knowledge. 1v1 Black Adam versus Superman. Does Superman walk all over Black Adam?
He beats him, but he doesn't walk all over him.
And that's what I saw a lot of people saying, like, what's the point? He wants us just to feed his ego, blah, 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 blah. Like, dude, that would have been probably one of the most nuts interactions that we would ever have seen live action in 2022, 2023.
Because people want those cool. No, I was going to say, people want those cool fights.
Yeah.
You know, but you need to establish in his movie that, hey, Black Adam's a problem to everybody. Because the JSA, when they come, they get their butts handed. And I mean, when Hawkman's like, okay, fine, I'm fed up with you, 1v1 me, short of ripping his wings off, I mean, Hawkman gets beat up bad, you know?
And Hawkman, 8 out of 10 times, Hawkman's probably going to the majority of people we've seen live action.
Yeah. So it's like, you have to establish that, you know? And especially if you want the thing that everybody wanted to see, Superman versus Black Adam. Because now there's people like, oh, well, he's a Shazam villain. And sure, that's true. But do you really want to see Zachary Levi versus The Rock? Or would you have preferred to see Henry Cavill versus The Rock? Let's be honest. The money match, Henry Cavill versus The Rock.
That's Godzilla versus Kong. Like, that's
and no disrespect to Zachary Levi. He does great as Shazam.
You can tell that story eventually.
You can, that can come later down the line. But how do you establish him as a big time villain? You make him go against the strongest being that people know in DC Comics. And I mean, who is the strongest being in DC? Superman.
Right.
So for people to then be like, oh, he's feeding his ego, it's in his contract, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, sure. But at the same time, for this movie, it makes sense.
And to the thing that I struggle with when it comes to live action, right? You have a full scope. We have the overall DCEU. And then you take it to a character level and we do our comparisons. And then you go down to a movie level and you have the comparisons. But when you get your big team up, this is something I think anime does better than anything Western for the most part, especially live action. If you have one ace and you plan to do an extended universe and there is a universal ending threat, you need another ace. You need at least 2 or 3. You look at Endgame, Cap, Tony, I was about to say Chris Hemsworth, and Thor. 3 aces that you have going up. You're like, this is what it takes to stop someone who beat the Hulk down, albeit with a stone. Doesn't matter. 1v1, it's not happening. You got to have some dogs show up. And even still, you're like, well, yeah, Cap's an ace, but like, he can't go up against Thanos. And then he's like, bang, guess what? I'm strapped up now. Let's go. Like, those are the things you build to these moments. And you have the ability, because I'll say this and I'll go back and throw this in real quick and then let you know, or want to know your thoughts. I still to this day think the biggest mistake that they made was building the DCEU on Zack Snyder's Superman, the style of Superman that he presented, the Superman that killed, willing to kill in the very beginning. What is stopping him from the rest of it? And I don't think that they really did a great job when it came to Batman versus Superman of saying like, I'll stop him even if there's a 1% chance. Like, you're not going to. Like, Superman stops Superman. You don't stop Superman. There's only one person, and that is his moral, his humanity, all of those types of things, right? You had a chance to build that and establish that, him versus Black Adam. And again, establishing brands of justice to define these characters of who they are, super beings who can do anything anytime they want, but they don't. Why? And what happens when you have two aces come up against each other? Like, those are just cool things that you can't do right off the bat. Again, Batman versus Superman, not the greatest idea in hindsight, but you put two aces against each other and people are just like, that was terrible. There was no like, you needed more. That was before its time, or before it was necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we talk about it, I think of wrestling, because me and you are both wrestling fans. You think about it as when someone tries to challenge for the championship. They have to be built up as a credible challenge. You can't take some new guy to go against the guy who's won 20 matches in a row.
Right.
Like, you're gonna look at the challenger and be like, yeah, he's gonna lose.
Yeah.
And then if he does win, it's gonna be like, well, that was stupid. Why did he win? Yeah, it's the same exact thing here, where it's like you have to build it up. And then I'm going to take it a step further in terms of the real life stuff, because a lot of people, again, coming after him when they found out that it's stated, it's who knows if it's true, that he went behind Walter Hamada's back to ask about the Henry Cavill stuff. And if that's true or not, we're not going to talk about this, but let's remember that Walter Hamada is the person who was in charge of DC for most of the DCEU, right?
Yeah.
Who made the big calls that made a lot of fans very, very unhappy. And yet Dwayne Johnson went as far as he possibly could, and if those reports are true, pushing the envelope, possibly to get himself in trouble, to bring back someone the fans wanted to see.
And fans wanted to see Henry Cavill as Superman.
And when they did, they freaked out.
Yeah. Oh, when he posted that video afterwards of like, I'm back.
People freaked out. But you don't get that without The Rock.
Right.
So again, should we really be on the side of Walter Hamada, someone who, sure, I'm not saying that every decision was his call, but he was the head.
Yeah.
So, it just makes you wonder. It makes you wonder who should we really be looking at here?
Yeah.
But at the end of it, I just do think that ultimately them changing leadership and Walter Hamada on his way out and all this in between, I do think ended up hurting the movie more than anything. And I think it's still hurting the DCU right now. For sure. With the Flash, unfortunately, I think Blue Beetle's was going to be a casualty of that as well.
Yeah. It's sad because there are a lot of leadership decisions that were made at the expense of the fans. Where I do feel like we're in this world where if you can at least listen to, I just find it interesting. I'm not going to bring these guys back, right? I think the internet is big enough now. And I think if something trends, there's a reason for it. I'm not saying it's perfect, but that's an indication that enough people are talking about this, that it should warrant a conversation. And for whatever reason, historically, the DCEU, they've made a lot of plans and scrapped a lot of things and decided to push things forward, but scrap some other things that people maybe want to see and push things people don't want to see. Again, I hope that changes in the DCE or DCU. My only thing, and I'll just leave it with this. I would hope that in the future of the DCU, everyone involved in Black Adam, obviously minus Henry Cavill, could potentially come back. As time goes on, I think this Elseworlds thing is kind of dumb, personally. I do think eventually they need to define it, but I hope when they do, and they do carry over their handful of characters that James Gunn referenced, I would be okay if everyone in the JSA carries over and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson carries over as Black Adam.
Agreed, 100%. Because honestly, he's someone you can use as the face of the DC. Even if they end up making him an anti-hero, you need a face for your brand. Let's be honest. The MCU doesn't get as far if you don't have Robert Downey Jr. as the face of Iron Man, or Chris Evans as the face of, Captain America. Your brand needs a face. And Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, whether you love him or hate him, is a very good face for your brand. Let's be honest. Look at his Instagram posts. Look at how many views and likes that man's videos gets. And sometimes it's of the most random stuff. So imagine how it would be promoting DC. There's nothing but growth there. But I don't think people see that. And I do agree. Hopefully one day, because I do think it'd be cool, because there is passion behind Black Adam for The Rock. I genuinely believe that. For him to come back, I think that would be great.
Yeah. I know we didn't touch too much on them, but slightly. But again, shout out to the JSA and supporting characters: Atom Smasher, Cyclone, Dr. Fate, Hawkman. I loved them. I thought that they were great. I thought that Atom Smasher was funny for what it's worth. Cyclone was super cool. Powers were awesome. Dr. Fate was better than Doctor Strange, in my opinion, and Hawkman was just a beast.
Yeah. 100%. No, 100%.
And Black Adam grew on me. And I would watch it again, simply to watch it again on my own, just because I enjoyed it.
Honestly.
I can't say that about everything. That, for me, that goes a long way. If I can watch something 3 times.
Yeah. And I think everybody at home, you should do the same. Let us know. After this video, go watch, if you have the time, go watch Black Adam. Come back and let us know what you thought of it on a second rewatch. Or if that's your first rewatch, let us know. We would love to hear from you. And as always, follow us on our social medias, our Instagram, TikTok, Threads. We're on all the good stuff. Find us wherever you listen to your other podcasts. We're on all the big podcasting platforms. But until then, keep watching, keep reading, keep nerding out.